came back up, they want me down, down, down. They want me down, down, down. But I'm up right now.
What's up with it? Welcome to the FlipSide Podcast. I'm your host, Dwight. Have a very special guest today, Mr. James Maiben. How you doing today, brother?
All right. How you doing, brother?
I'm hanging in there. So want to thank you and appreciate you for coming on the podcast. Know you got a powerful story, and I'm sure you'll be able to give the subscribers some free game. Make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. So let's start off. Give us a little bit about yourself. Tell us where you're from, how you came up, single parent home, both of your parents. Just give the people a history about yourself.
I originally grew up in Hollydale, like from birth to, I would say 12 or 14 years old. It was Hollydale. My parents got divorced when I was like 6 or 7 years old. My mother raised me. She was a strong Black woman. Really held it down, kept the house in Hollydale. My father moved, and got another house. Used to work for both my parents. I remember when we was little kids or whatever, worked for them. They had janitorial services, gas stations, convenience store. And then they got divorced. They lost all of that. So, but I graduated. I guess I kind of say, I always say, you jump off the porch. Of course, I was always in Lincoln Heights, as a little boy. But, when I really started staying in Lincoln Heights when I was about 16, 17 years old.
So Hollydale, that's a suburb of Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And it's
middle-class suburb.
Middle-class suburb of Cincinnati. And it's real close to, like you said, Lincoln Heights. People from Hollydale, Lincoln Heights, and a few other neighborhoods all go to the same high school, which is Princeton High School.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay. So you come from parents who were entrepreneurs.
Oh, yeah, definitely. My father had, like I said, if you're familiar with Glendale, Milford, and the Springfield Pike right there in Woodline,
yeah,
I think y'all call it Hook's Fish.
Yeah.
They used to be the Texaco gas station. My father used to own that one. He used to own one down by Winton Terrace, and he had one, I think, which I can't recall what the other one was. He had a janitorial service, and he had I can't remember what I think the convenience store was out by Westwood or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah. Back then, of course, when you get divorced, you lose everything because the lawyers make all the money off of whatever you done build up.
Gotcha.
So, they wound up, my mother got a job at Western Electric, and my father had a job at Hostess Bakery.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that sounds like a pretty good upbringing.
Oh, yeah. It was, well, I'll put you like this. I grew up in and let's be clear, I love my mother more than anything. My mother was the reason who I am today. But my mother married a white guy who went to jail for embezzlement. And this was about, I think I might have been like 10 years old, maybe. And I was the only Black kid in the community with a white stepdad. So I took a lot of, fallout from that, from the kids, how they go.
Yeah.
But, definitely my mother was, my main supporting piece, the reason why I am who I am.
Like that. So coming from an environment where you got both parents in the household, grew up, decent community, decent neighborhood, what made you choose to start hanging out in an area like Lincoln Heights?
Well, remember my dad moved out when I was 6 or 7. So I never identified, even though my mother was married to other men, it just made me into a different type of dude. I'm saying? I never identified with a situation. One of my mother's husbands was abusive. And, I think that's why I'm so hard on men when I see men, being abusive to women, because of what I saw, from one of the men that my mother was married to. But, like I said, I got when I think I was in junior high school, the 7th grade.
Yeah.
Some of my, best friends was from Lincoln Heights, you know what I'm saying? And I started staying out there every day. And I don't know if y'all remember Tito Kid, the dad.
Tito.
Yeah, Tito Kid. He
Of
was from
course.
Glendale.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, Tito. Oh
He
my
used to
God.
park his this first black man I ever seen with a Rolls Royce.
Damn.
He used to park his Rolls Royce at my dad's Texaco gas station. That's one of the things I remember. So it kind of had, even though I was a kid, you know, it just was like, I want that. You know what I'm saying? And I was always the class clown when I was in school, so I know I wasn't concentrating on school. So, you know, I started hanging out, you know, and you know, watching the older guys, you know, I come up under like Big Jimmy and them, watching them, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, and I didn't see a job that I was gonna get, that I was gonna be able to obtain some of the stuff that they was doing. So, you know, I decided to jump off the porch, I guess you would say.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
still in high school when you start hustling?
Yeah, I got kicked out of 5 schools.
Damn.
I got kicked out of Princeton, Scarlet Oaks, Green Hills, and well, 4, and Aiken. And I didn't get kicked out of Aiken. I just dropped out my last year. I said I ain't going to college. I don't even waste no time to get to the bag. But I got kicked out of Green Hills because I was selling weed in school, and they found out about that. So I started out selling weed, but in '85 when the crack epidemic hit, you know, we jumped in feet first. I started running with, you know, one of my brothers. I don't like, you know, putting people's names out, but I don't think he really cared. Me and Jewel Jet started selling crack together. You know what I'm saying? So that was when I really first got my feet wet in cocaine.
I understand. I remember.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So how did the hustling go? Was you? I mean, it seemed like when I look at somebody, because they say a lot of times if somebody making a decent amount of money in street, it can be transferred. So if they making money in the streets, it can be transferred. So just knowing, you know, what you do now with real estate and different type of investments, I'm assuming you was doing pretty good in the streets.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. When I first started out, it was more so for the clothes, the cars, and the jewelry. It wasn't about real estate. Just wanting to, you know, it was like almost an addiction in itself. Just the attention that you would get, you know, and that's what really, you know, back then what the ladies wanted. You know, they want to see a guy flashy, you know, with nice cars and jewelry. So that was the name of the game. Um, I think, what do I want to say? I, I think the way my process was Mr. Jenkins. He was kind of like a mentor to me, and he owned half Lincoln Heights. And
Gene Jenkins.
yeah,
Right.
Mr. James Jenkins. You know, he was my barber, and like I said, he owned tons of real estate. So he kind of took me under his wing, and he showed me some of the work that he had people doing in some of the houses, and he just took me to a house he was doing in Woodline. And when I saw that, I just was like, I was all in from that point. I was like, I gotta, you know, get me some real estate. But I was still caught up in running, going to the bars and, you know, the women. So I didn't really and then I don't know, a lot of people might not remember his name, was Old Man Earl. He stayed down in the hole down on I think it was McGee.
Okay.
Down in the hole in Lincoln Heights, and I used to go down there and sell drugs through there. You know, a lot of people was using would be down there late night, so we would move stuff from there. And he had a piece of property on Stephens, and that was my first piece of property, which, you know, I didn't really do nothing with it. Wound up getting tore down by the city, but that was myself calling getting my feet wet with real estate. So, you know,
Gene, I remember Gene.
Yeah,
he was my barber too.
Yeah, awesome, a positive brother. He was the mayor of Lincoln Heights at one time as well.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right. So okay, so you never went to prison, right?
No, most I ever did was at the Justice Center. You know, I was
Okay.
blessed. The feds kicked my door in 3 times. Never, you know, I mean, I was never the type of guy. I was always paranoid. So I would never keep nothing in my house. I would never keep nothing that, you know, a piece of property I had, money or drugs. You know, they they got me one time where they kicked the doors in and tore my house up and got a dime bag of weed and some rolling papers. That was the most they ever got out of me. So
I look at, it's people like Jay-Z who came from the streets,
yeah,
but he changed his life.
yeah,
So you got people every now and then that try to go back and like, oh, he was here, but he rapped about being in the streets.
yeah.
One of his partners ended up going to the Fed joint, but Jay had an awakening. He had an awakening. He said, "Nah, I'm cool on this. Like it's a bigger purpose for my life." So where did you get your awakening? What made you leave the streets?
Um, I was this is before I had any property or anything. I was married, my first marriage, and I was selling dope, and I was actually not just selling dope. I was using a little bit. I was snorting,
Wow.
and I would find myself staying up late at night because I'd be snorting coke during the day and couldn't sleep. And I found myself learning, oh, you smoke some weed. That's when I started getting into weed, smoking weed, and I would find myself bringing myself down where I could start sleeping. In the process of that, I wanted to start a record label. So I started. It was a guy that I was cool with. He was in the music. He was a writer and a producer, and so I started. And my wife could sing really, really good. So I started putting money behind them, and they was going to the studio. And she wound up sleeping with him while I was out of town with some other women. But when I got back, I had this little recorder device. Anytime somebody talked in your apartment, it would record. When it was silence, it wouldn't record. So when I got back in town, she wasn't there. And I went, the first thing I did when I got home, I went and I played it. And I heard him and her in my apartment having sex. And it kind of messed me up. And
That it did.
yeah. So I kind of lost it behind that. I almost killed her, with a gun. But then, like I said, God, knows what's best in your life. But I wound up getting to church after that because I couldn't picture it because I loved her so much, even though I wasn't nothing because I had multiple women. But she was like somebody I just loved more than anything. You know what I'm saying? And I wound up going to church. One of my brothers was like Troy Brown, one of the brothers I grew up with in Hollydale. They was always in church, their family, and he had came and witnessed to me because I was crying in the front yard one day because me and her had an apartment together, but I wanted to move back in the house with my mom because I wouldn't stay over there. And he was like, "Brother, you need to go to church." And I went to church one day, and I just cried. You know what I'm saying? It was just like I just cried, and after that, I just stopped selling crack. You know what I mean? Drugs, whatever it was. I just gave everything up cold turkey. I started going to church, and that's where my first change came. You know what I mean? That's what I think I would say saved me from dying. You know what I mean? Because I was moving super, super fast. I've been robbed a couple times, at gunpoint. I had and like I said, I was using coke. You know what I mean? I was snorting, and I had so much of it. You know what I'm saying? It just wasn't like I just stayed high all day. I'm 6'2". I was 6'2" then. I think I weighed like 142 pounds. At 6'2", I looked like a toothpick. So, but a lot of people didn't know it. They just assumed, it was just because I was always this kind of thin guy. But once I stopped snorting coke, I started picking weight up. You know what I'm saying? What they say, you get your weight up.
Yep.
I started getting my weight up.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
So we're hearing that, man. I'm gonna tell you, I got a newfound respect for you. The simple fact that you now been through something like that, I would have never imagined that you would have, been through that. Now I'm gonna say this: people who was using it back then didn't know what the full effects of using that narcotic would be. But people like my age, we seen the effects that it did to majority of the people.
Yeah.
You definitely like a rare person because you was able to put that behind you and was able to continue your life. You didn't turn into a person who was dependent on drugs. You know what I'm saying?
I wouldn't say I was actually dependent on drugs for a time because the whole time I was in the game, I was snorting coke. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Back in the 80s. So I'd say when I was in the 80s, because I had, two different transitions when I was in the game. But back then, yeah, I was dependent on coke. It kept me up. I was able to stay out late all night. I was always, hustling. You know what I'm saying? So, and I was this close to because peer pressure back then was tremendous. Like a lot of the guys that were super popular, they wound up getting hooked on crack. And me being around them, you know what I'm saying? It was the peer pressure, like they would try and put on me. Like I remember I was with one of my partners and shit. He was a super popular guy. I ain't gonna put no names out, but we was over there and I was selling some crack to one of my peoples or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and he was, he was testing it because that's what he used. And he was like, "Man, we need to go ahead," but they was trying to roll it up and they call them smoking moles. They put the
Yep.
crack in the weed,
Right.
and they kept trying to get me to do it, and I really looked up to this dude. And when I saw him do it, he didn't realize I kind of lost a little respect for him because I was like, "Oh, I see what this, this doing to people that we selling it to."
Right.
And I said, "Nah," I said, "Bro," I said, I can't do that." But like I said, I was this close to it. I mean, I could have fell short, that one day and tried it. I just was blessed where I never did.
Right.
I was even with a girl, that I liked, and I was dealing with, and she dead now, but she wound up, she tried to get me, because I was smoking weed, and then I watched her lace a joint, and she tried to get me to do it, and I was like, "No, that ain't me." You know what I'm saying? I snort coke or whatever, but I ain't, I'm not gonna do that. So I thank God I never did. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? I never wanted that experience. What I seen it do to other people, like, so.
Dang, man, that's deep, man. I would have never imagined it. And so yeah, that's a good thing that you never did go that route because it's a lot of people who I just know in my lifetime that weren't able to bounce back from a crack addiction.
Yes.
So you're right. Cocaine, that was different than crack.
Yeah.
Two different, same drugs, start the same way, but
It's a hard addiction to kick too. I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell you, I didn't kick it till I got in church. Like I couldn't stop. You know what I'm saying? I'm just being straight up. I was probably snorting 8 ball a day.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Every day, 7 days a week. But when I gave my life to God, it just, even money, I just walked away from money, drugs, everything. It was just, and like I said, it was because my wife had the affair that I was able to even make that transition.
Yeah.
If she would have never had that affair, I probably would have OD'd because I was doing so much of it. Like the more you do, the more you want. You know what I'm saying? So, and who's to say I might have? Because I know a lot of the guys started out snorting coke, wound up smoking crack. So I'm just thankful God, never took me in that direction.
Right.
Yeah.
When you have you ever had a like a 9 to 5, or you always been an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I had one time when I was 16, I had worked at Wendy's over by USA Skating Rink off Kemper Road.
I worked at that. I worked at that Wendy's too.
Hey man, we was off the chain, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But yeah, that's I had a 9 to 5 doing that.
Right.
And but I used to paint cars too, motorcycles,
Okay.
when I was young. I used to paint everybody cars and trucks and stuff and motorcycles, and I'm artistic, so I was good at stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I worked at that Wendy's and on jumping on the holiday. So I'm like, they scheduled me for the holiday. I done brought my little outfit up there, got it in the bag. So people come through there before they go to the room. I take your order. I'm bringing people out. As soon as I get out, man, I go in the bathroom and change my clothes and shoot down to the skating ring, man.
I did the same thing. I used to do the same thing, man, because they made us work. Well, but I learned a lot from that too. And then you know what I did? I worked at Napa Auto Parts. So I did, but I was selling crack out of the Napa trucks. I was going to Lincoln Heights, dropping crack off. You know what I mean? It was so easy to be able to do it. One thing about me, I knew you had to have a job if you was getting street money to, stay out of jail.
Right.
Or if you wanted to buy nice things.
Right.
So I was always, a pretty smart guy when it came to stuff like that. So I did have a job at Napa Auto Parts for a while. I was selling drugs out of there. But yeah, and then I wound up a guy named Rodney Lee. He was working for Dree's Home or something, and then he quit and started working for this place. I forget what it's called, but it was a construction company that did fire restoration.
Oh, okay.
and he came and he was talking. I saw his little lapel pin, and he was like, I said, man, I'm artistic. I know how to do stuff because I had did some work for a guy named Jim Dickmiller, a white guy. And he was like, man, I said, why don't you give me a number? I said, because I do work. And he was like, I'll turn you on. So he got me into insurance restoration too. So that's, one of the things that I was doing as well.
And did you go to school to learn how to do anything for his renovations? Because I seen you saying like talking about some of the work you do on the properties that you own.
I never, like I said, I dropped out of school. I never was school material. I was the type of person that if I see you do it and I watch you a few times, I can do it. So when I was selling crack, that actually, let me get that right. That's not true. When I was selling weed, I started getting into real estate, and I was doing insurance restoration as well. And that's when I started getting into real estate. I learned my trade from guys. My uncle from Alabama, my Uncle Dean, I learned tremendous from. My first wife's dad, I learned a lot from him. And then I learned a lot from Stan Brown from Lake Heights. I learned a lot from Rick Crawford, Greg Wright, electrical. I learned from Ray Baker. It's a white dude, Old Man Willie. I learned master plumbing from him. I just was around everybody that did the trade because I started buying little raggedy houses that was jacked up that, you had to totally redo. So that's why I started learning. I would always be there with them. And if it was something I didn't know, like, I learned how to do tile work from going, I don't know if y'all remember the golf course in Sharon Road, top of Holly, Sharon and Southland, that golf course right there. They got houses they built up there.
Okay.
Well, when they was building the house, I used to go up there and I'd just walk in the house and watch the guys do the work. They didn't know if I was one of the ones buying them or not, but I would watch them. And that's what I was good at. And I don't know if you remember this. This was back in the day when they had HQ and Builder Square.
I remember
yeah. They had the DVD tapes, and they used to have them at the hardware store. I used to get those little DVD tapes and watch those DVD tapes, how they would do the tile work and different things with construction. So
he was like a sponge soaking up game.
Yeah, just sucking it up. You know what I mean? I was always good. Like I could watch you do something, do it. Like even painting cars. I never went to school for none of this. I just watched somebody. My uncle. Well, I call him my uncle, but he's my cousin. I used to watch him do it, and I just picked up on it and just started doing it.
Now you now touched on so many things. There's so many things that, like, as you telling me things, there's things that's coming in my mind. So before we get too far, I want to ask your opinion on this. Earlier, you said that guys was hustling because they wanted to, like, the women look for it. They wanted to impress the women. So my question to you is, do you feel like women now have the ability to start like putting up a stop sign to guys who they know in the streets or who guys doing the wrong thing? Like, nah, that ain't cool no more. We ain't fucking with y'all because you gonna end up dead or in jail or something. We want something better. Do you think that can change some of the men perspective as far as going out there hustling?
This what I'm gonna say, because it's like, and I don't know the exact numbers, but I'm gonna just say this: for every 6 women, I mean, it's one man to every 6 women. Let's just use those numbers.
Okay.
It can be 3 women to say, I ain't fooling with you because you selling drugs, but there's gonna be 3 women to say, I will fool with you because you selling drugs.
Okay.
So I don't think we ever stop that. What one of the things I think we're gonna have to do as a people is just realize people don't sell drugs. It ain't about selling the drugs at this point. It's about, what are you doing with the money? What are you reinvesting this money in? I think a person that sells drugs has more of an obligation to spend all that money with Black-owned businesses before he do anything with anybody else. I look at, if you out hustling and you're not spending your money with your own people, then you're here to kill your own people. If you out hustling and you spending money, because people gonna get high. I don't care who you are. People gonna get high. I mean, it's just, in a perfect world, I guess people wouldn't be using drugs and drinking or whatever we do, but in the real world, I think that if you sell drugs, your first obligation is to all Black businesses, period. And if you don't, I have no respect for you at all, because I watch hustlers how they spend money, and certain hustlers I got respect for, and certain ones I don't. I don't make it a point to go out and say, oh, I don't like what you're doing, you this or that. But I always would tell somebody, make sure you're spending that money with some black businesses.
I'm gonna say a lot of what you said, I agree with it. And I might be maybe my thoughts is will never become true. You know what I'm saying? But when we came up, and you're a little older than me, but when we came up, it was like we was told, you can hit the streets, you can make some money, and take that money and invest in something new.
Yeah.
Now, I feel like it's more opportunity out here for the youth to do. Like when we came up, you had to be, say, an athlete, or you can rap or sing or something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, to make money.
Yeah.
But now you got people can make money out social media.
Yes.
People can make
AI.
money out. It's so much. It's so many other opportunities where somebody can make money as opposed to dealing drugs. If we look at the young boy, I Show Speed from Cincinnati during the pandemic, he now started something to where he a multimillionaire, one of the biggest streamers out. So there are other things I feel like youth can do besides that. Like my daughter, she just went to Butler Tech, and now she in school. She left high school with an associate's in mechanical engineering. So it's a lot of things that we learned coming up that gentlemen like us are trying to pass the information to the youth. You know what I'm saying? Now, back in the day, it's like you had to use that as a stepping stone. But I think I agree with you saying people gonna use drugs, people gonna drink, no matter what. So some people are gonna be like, I'm gonna make some money off this. But I'm the person that's gonna tell them it don't make sense, because the feds will come in, take everything you got. 9 times out of 10, one of your friends, somebody you was handling business with, tell on you if they back get against the wall.
Yeah.
When you go to prison, people, it's so many downfalls to that game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I agree with you 100%.
I thought back in the day, people in these nice neighborhoods got there from selling dope, but 9 times out of 10, people went to college or they had a career, became an electrician, or someone went to a trade school. They had a 9 to 5, and that's how they end up getting them nice homes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you made some valid points, man. And I'll be thinking like of a new value system. If women held men to a higher standard, would they be like, you know what? I got to change my life, because what used to be cool, women don't want to mess with me no more because I'm out here doing this and doing that. You know what I'm saying?
You got to remember, women going to have to hold, not just, it's not, I don't think it's about women holding men to a higher standard. It's about them holding their own self to a higher standard.
My man.
I can go on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, and I'm just speaking. I'm not saying, I'm not trying to put nobody down or nothing, but to see a woman shaking her ass all the time, shaking her butt, I'm sorry, or being super seductive online.
Yeah.
It's basically like you're advertising, and then always putting your personal business online. How much respect is a man gonna have for you? And then how much respect are you gonna have for a man if he's doing the same thing that you're doing, putting all his personal business on social media, walking around, if he's walking around with just using for his butt out. How much respect you gonna have for a man? So I think it's gotta be, the balance that we need there. Unfortunately, in the time that we're in, this is what I believe. I believe that we're not gonna take that road. I think we're about to go into a time where it's about to be so rough and so many job losses that the Black community this time, because Black people get through no matter what. And I'm not going to say that we're not going to get through, but it's going to be so hard on us this time because it's going to affect us, our kids. If we don't get acclimated to AI, to start taking trades, stop worrying about it. If you ain't going to school to be a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer or something, direct your kids going to get a trade. Go to Scarlet Oaks.
Yep.
Don't waste your time trying to put your kid in school and something that they're not going to benefit from. They're going to have debt.
And everybody ain't built for college, being honest.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So what we need to focus on in the Black community right now is trade schools and reinvesting all our money. We have to invest in Black business. if we do not invest in black business, we're gonna be hit so hard this time and we need to start this immediately. I ain't talking about down the road. We should already been doing this. We should have had a plan in place. Anything that's black owned, stop worrying about who owned it and just invest in it or be a part of it. Do not take your money and spend it with and I have no problem with other races, but I'm black. I'm black first. I love me. I love my people. I got black sons and black daughters. I want to see them prosper before I want to see another race prosper. So I just love black people. You know what I mean? That's why I'm always gonna give. That's why I share every night. I done got, I know at least 10 guys started in business, just from, me trying to help them, giving them the knowledge that I had. You know, and I don't want to say who, like people I started in drugs or whatever, because that's just, I'm not proud of that. But what I am proud of is when I matured and grew up, I started getting people into construction. I've helped a lot of black people get their own businesses started, and I support. You can check my resume. I support every black. If I find out it's black owned, I'm gonna support it.
Supporting me. Man, you just mentioned something. So you're a father. How many
Yes.
children do you have?
7.
You got 7 children?
Yeah.
Wow.
7. I got a 5-year-old son too.
Okay.
I'm 59. So,
Okay.
Yeah. Keep you young.
How would you grade yourself as a parent? What's the grade you'll give yourself, and why?
As a parent, I'm gonna be straight up. As a parent, on a scale 1 to 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst, I'm really gonna have to say about a 5. I say a 5 because I'm a workaholic. I make plenty of money, and I spend so much time working that I feel like I don't give my kids enough of me. So, and I see like a lot of brothers like P30. He's always with his son. You know what I'm saying? He's always doing this with his son. I mean, I could go down the list of brothers that's always spending time with their son. I don't. In order for me to be able to help how I help, and for me to be able to share like I share it, my kids, the ones suffer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But for me to be able to do what I do, I have to work a lot. You know what I'm saying? Because I give. I'm a giver. My mother was a giver. So yeah, I would give myself about a 5.
I grade myself hard when it comes to parenting because people be telling me, man, you're a good parent, you do good by your kids and all that. But the area where I feel like I lacked is I always put myself in harm's way.
Yeah.
And that means when I was in the street selling dope, I can get caught up and I was taken away from my children a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But now, since I've been free of the hustle, I look at myself like now I'm that father where I can feel good about myself because I'm not putting myself in harm's way to be taken away from my children.
Yeah.
So I feel where you saying, where you coming from with that. This is gonna be a tough question for you. I feel like somebody told me, a guy we was renting the office from, and he was telling us about how somebody, a business shut down. And I said, man, how his business shut down? He was a good dude. He said, right. He was a good dude, but he wasn't a good businessman. He's like, it's a difference. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, that was deep. So my question to you is, when you buying property in the black community, some of the sellers you might know, and every dollar might count to them. But how do you work out, and I don't want to use the word a fair deal, but how do you go about the process of what you're going to offer somebody so it's fair for them and it's also fair for you to be able to make your money?
Well, number one, you said business. There's nothing fair about business because business. I'm gonna tell you a little story. I don't throw no shade on nobody. So the story I'm gonna tell you, I don't fault the people that did whatever they did. I fault myself because I came from a street mentality. I always felt like, oh, if a person don't do right by you, they know what the consequences can be. It's kind of like life or death. If you steal, rob somebody selling dope, you might get killed, or you might get shot, or you might. It's always something consequences that come with doing somebody wrong when you're in the game. In business, I just had that same mentality, like, okay, well, this ain't no street stuff, so I can trust a person. I had real estate with a pastor and a minister, and I actually, we had a bunch of houses and stuff, and we was doing it together. It was supposed to be something we had for our retirement, and kind of find out because I'm trusting, and I let them do all the paperwork. They set the paperwork up where I had no ownership, and when we went to court, I wound up walking away with peanuts. You know what I'm saying? Like we had a lot, and they took from me, and my first instinct was to retaliate. You know what I'm saying? Like, and my brother called me on the phone one day. And he was like, "Dude, down here, we gonna kill him." And I said, "No." I said, "Leave him alone," because my mother told me. She said, and I had my mother's money in it too. And my mother told me, she said, "Baby," she said, "what you do, you can do 100 times over." She said, "Leave that man alone. God will take care of that." And his mom and my mom was best friends. And it broke my heart because, like I said, his wife was a minister and he was a deacon. And actually, I got him started in his own business too. He was an electrician. I got him started in his own business. And he took from me and he took from my mother. That's why it was so hard for me to walk away from that. But I did. And when I say business don't love nobody but business. So when you in business, you're not gonna look to give somebody the best deal. Now, don't get me wrong. I bought a house from a mother, and because I bought a house from somebody I knew that was a mother, I had to look out for it. You know what I'm saying? But when you in the real estate, you're a shark. You know what I'm saying? And you want the best deal. You want the bottom line, which you can get something for.
Yeah.
So you want your profit margin as high as possible. So that's what you do. You know what I'm saying?
You make your money off the purchase price a lot of times.
I make my money off. This is what I've been blessed with. Everybody call me when somebody losing something, or it's a deal out there on the table, or somebody passed away and they got a piece of real estate for sale. I bought a house in Lincoln Heights just recently for $25,000 on 1256 Shoemart, and I bought it for $25,000. I already know what I'm about to do. I'm gonna go over there. I'm gonna put about 35,000 in it because I self-perform a lot. So I got guys that work for me, but I help. Like I do my finished work. I do my own kitchens, my own bathrooms.
Sweat equity.
Yeah, where the money is at is in your kitchens and your bathrooms. Certain stuff I used to do everything, but certain stuff I don't do no more because I'm a lot older. But I take it. I paid 25 for it. I'm gonna put 35 in it, so I'm gonna be in it $60,000. I'm turning to it's a 2-bedroom. It'll be a 3-bedroom, 1 bath when I'm done with it, and I'll get a 220 to 240 appraisal out of it. I'll pull out the equity, so I'll probably walk away with you do the math. 80% of 240 is what 180 or something.
Yeah.
So I'll probably make $100,000 profit, a little over $100,000 profit, plus the residual income I still got coming in because my tenants will pay back the mortgage.
Right.
And I still make me $200 or $300 on the money every month. And the money that I pulled out in the refi is tax-free money. I could take and burn it if I wanted to. I don't have to pay taxes on it. So when I talk to people, I always tell them, get you a piece of real estate. When I talk to guys in the street that's getting money, form your LLC, put in your mama name or your baby mama name, somebody that you trust. And because if you go to jail, at least you still get residual income. You got a piece of equity there. I mean, some real estate that you always benefit from. And real estate go up about 5% a year. So let's say if you did 5 years in jail, you come home, your property went up 25%. So it's just a no-brainer.
I got locked up in '95, and I didn't know you prior. I had never heard of you prior to me getting locked up. The only time I was locked up, heard some things about you. When I came home in '06, somebody set up a meeting between you and I.
Yeah.
So I came over to Hollydale and we sat down, and I'm like, "Oh man, good person sent me to you." You know what I mean? I'm thinking like, and you said, "He's like, I don't mess with that no more." I'm like, "What?" You was like, "If you got any questions about real estate, hit me up." He was like, "That's where it's at." And I'm like, I'm like, damn. So when I left out of there, I'm like, but shit, I don't got no money. So I end up, when I look back on that, I'm like, damn, man, that was a blessing. I got me some money. I ended up getting into the real estate.
Yes,
You know
sir.
what I mean? But so now I think if I would have really, I should have stayed in contact with you then. Cause I'm like, man, I'm gonna go get me a bag, like no matter what. But if I could have stayed in contact with you to find other ways to try to get some money so I could get started in the real estate, I think that should have been my move. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? But I'm gonna say I definitely appreciate you telling me that back then. I had to go around the corner, through a mountain, up the hill, and all that to end up getting what you told me about back then. But you did keep it real with me, and
Oh
I
yeah.
always looked at you like in appreciation for that. So I
I
want to give you your
appreciate that.
flies right here.
I
Like
appreciate that.
I see you. You ain't on here just talking. I see you sharing post after post after post. I see that. I seen you just come together when families was not having food. You opened up your daycare. You were serving at the community. So these type of things, and I don't know how often people, tell you thank you, but I'm gonna tell you thank you from that point of view. The things that I see you doing in the community.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you thank you for that. Um,
Again,
man,
I get that from my mother too. I want to make sure everybody know that my mother blessed me with the heart that I got. I love my father too, but my mother is the one who blessed me with that.
yeah. People sometimes when you caring and giving, people can take advantage of that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because they say like when you a giver, you a giver. The takers they gonna always try to take. You know what I mean? The takers gonna always try to take. Where did the handle fancy come from? Because I remember it was a club fancy.
Yeah.
That was the Apple, right? Though
Yeah.
Apple.
Well, the peppermint, I originally invested with Bernard, Mr. Virgil, and them in the Peppermint Lincoln Heights, and I started Fancy. First of all, Fancy came from that's my father's name, my grandfather's name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so both my sons' name, my daughter's name, mine.
Got you.
Um, so that's where the name came from, and but they spelled theirs Fancy. I'd spell ours Fanci.
Got you.
Just trying to be different.
For sure.
But yeah, I had bought the apple and woodline. I mean the peppermint. I invested. Me and Bernard was partners, whatever. And then me and Nate bought the apple and woodline. Nate Barger, he's big in the real estate game as well. Um, but we bought the apple together, and we again we were selling weed then. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, when I got in church and I graduated from the crack epidemic and the cocaine, I said I would never sell nothing that I won't use, and I said I would never use a hard drug again in my life.
Right.
But I said if I sell something, I'm gonna use it. So of course, I was selling weed. We was running from Arizona back and forth, twice a month,
Mm-hmm.
bringing weed in, and we bought the apple and woodline and fixed it up, and I named it Fancy. Um, but yeah, I was always good at drawing a crowd, so I had a pretty good name. I've always been good by people. I've never taken anything from anybody. I don't believe nobody would ever say they. I know nobody can say I've taken anything from anybody. But that's one of the things I pride myself in. But yeah, that name came from my grandparents and my father. That's where Fancy came from.
Real estate, bar, um, what club, uh, what else? What else is on the horizon for you?
Well, right now I'm working on a veterans village. It's it's a little community for veterans. It's 45 tiny homes, and we're gonna house 90 veterans. So that's my next big play. Hopefully, after that one, I can kick back a little bit because I am, like I said, I'm 59 years old.
Damn, I didn't know you was
And
that old.
yeah,
Man, you look good for 59. Damn, you got me be
thank
about 10,
yeah,
11.
yeah. I'm
Okay,
59, so
shit.
I'm ready to do something else. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to travel. I want to go to Africa, and actually I want to invest in Africa now. So that's one of the things that I'm gonna do it. Whenever I say I'm gonna do something, I usually do it.
Right.
But like I said, my focus right now is the veterans home. I lost. I don't know if you ever met Lamar Perry.
I don't know the name.
He used to do the install carpet. He used
Okay.
to live in Dayton,
Okay.
and he always was down here, and he was a Marine. He's an ex-veteran or whatever. But when the stuff they go through when they're in the military, bro, you could. I mean, he told me some of the stuff. I don't want to share it, but he told me some of the stuff he went through. You know what I'm saying? And it broke my heart just listening to it. And then, he had got homeless for a while. He was sleeping in the van, and he wound up went to Veterans Affairs, and he wound up they put him. People do the veterans house where you got 2 beds in a room or whatever.
Yep.
And he said the most degrading feeling he ever had in his life was to sleep in a room with a man that he didn't know, like he was, just a throwaway. You know what I'm saying? And that broke my heart. Then he wound up overdosing on cocaine. It was laced with some fentanyl or something, and the heart. I mean, I don't know exactly how he died.
Right.
Um, and that broke my heart. You know what I'm saying? And I always had that in the back of my head, like, what can I do? What can I do to try and help right or wrong? That they doing to our veterans. So that's when I came up with the plan to do a veterans mini subdivision with tiny homes.
I know you had was trying to organize something where and that's a good thing you're working on there too. I know you was trying to organize something where you was trying to get a certain amount of investors together. I think maybe 10,000 investors. And sometimes I look at it like, dang, with black folks, man, it might be hard to try to get 10 black folks together. But tell us your plan with getting, say, maybe 10,000 investors together.
Well, actually, I'm like I said, I'm a man with many hats. I wear a lot of hats. I'm actually doing a water line, and my concept was how do you make something into a $300 or $400 million business? Well, I did the math and the research. I don't know what this evaluation on this, but let's just use like
Ice Mountain.
Ice Mountain. I think the evaluation is either $500 million or $1 billion on the stock market. So I started doing the research. I learned like, okay, you can do a equity crowdfund. Basically, what that is people can invest in your idea and own shares before it go public. Kind of like what Elon Musk did with Tesla, like what
Before the IPO.
all these businesses do it
Right.
before they go public. But my thing of it was, I said, okay, well, what everybody gonna use for the rest of their life till they die? Water.
Yeah.
I said, well, why not make an opportunity right now? Because everybody in the big box brand, so Ice Mountain and stuff like that, or Fiji water, stuff like that. You just go buy it, don't even think about just buying constantly water. But what if you owned a share of that water? Wouldn't you buy your own water?
Absolutely.
So I did the math. I said, with 10,000 people at $100 a pop, so you make it affordable. So the average Joe, nobody can say they can't afford. Anybody can hustle up $100.
Right.
To be able to take this business, turn around in 3 to 5 years. So if you do 10,000 people, you can take, and now those 10,000 people have to buy the water. They have to support their own brand. This is how this works. So when you invest in it, you buying your own water. So you will start out at 10,000 people. You can imagine if it's me and I done bought into this business, I'm gonna have my buddies buy into this business.
Right.
So where you start out with 10,000 people can grow to 100,000 overnight, because you got to think globally. Because I know people in just about, I go to every state, but I know tons of people across the United States because my history.
Yep.
And I know those type of people deal with me. You know what I'm saying? And willing to invest in the ideas that I got. So I believe people that will invest in ideas that you got. So you can imagine if you said, hey, we gonna support this because we all gonna benefit it from it. And we gonna buy our own product now because everybody got to drink water. Why wouldn't we buy our own product if we gonna make money off of it? In 3 to 5 years, it can be worth $300 to $400 million when you go public. Now think about it. It can change lives. Now I'm not saying if you buy one share, it's gonna change your life, but you can imagine investing $100, and your next thing you know, that $100 is worth $2,000 or $3,000 in 3 to 5 years. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
like what they did with any other big business. So now you done turn around and took something that was nothing, and now you're reaping the benefits. Can you imagine if you put $1,000 into it, or
Right. Right.
$5,000 into the investment? And the whole object is the only way you can do it is it has to start out with 10,000 people. If you get 10,000 people to invest in your product, it's going to be successful, hands down. And you got a business off the numbers. At the end of the 3 to 5 years, you're gonna have sitting on about $3 to $500 million business.
FlipSide Podcast. We chopping it up with Fancy. He's an entrepreneur coming up with some great ideas. Make sure you like, share, comment. If you want more ideas about this 10,000 investors he need for the water, comment below and we'll send you out more information about that. I know you're going to be all right. I'm saying you're going to be all right month to month. So even if, say, something like this water thing didn't work out, what's your reason for trying to turn others on to something?
Like I said, I got to go back to my mother. You know what I'm saying? This was my mother's, what she did. I hate to see Black people struggle. You know what I'm saying? It's not, don't get me wrong, I like to feel good and have nice stuff, but I don't like having nice stuff and seeing somebody Black and they struggling. I hate to see mothers struggle most of all because of how, I watched my mother. She was a single mother. The man she was married to wasn't nothing. You know what I'm saying? I say nothing. I never got nothing out of the men that my mother was married to, other than my father. But the men that my mother was married to, I got nothing positive out of them, period. I won't give none of them any credit. But what I do is because I hate to see, and the number one thing, I hate to see our mothers struggle. You know what I mean? It break my heart because I knew how my mother struggled, and you couldn't tell she struggled. You know what I'm saying? But I knew it. You know what I mean? I knew it. I saw my mother cry. You know what I'm saying? And I know how mothers can cry. You might not see it in public, but when they home alone, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that just, it touched my heart because I can look at a certain type of woman. I can see the struggle in their face. You know what I mean? Because I see my mother, and they might look cute. They might be out the club and doing their thing or whatever, but I know what's going on at home. So my thing of it is whatever I can get back to try and help, to relieve some of that pressure. I mean, that's what we should all be trying to do. I look at anybody. I'm gonna say this to anybody with a business idea. Somebody got a business idea, want to open up a shoe store, want to open up a hair store, want to do an equity crowdfund where people invest in your business. That way they'll spend money at your business. They opt because they're gonna own a percentage of your business. Stop it. What we doing right now, it ain't about one person trying to do a business. If you want to be successful and super successful, do equity crowdfund where people can invest in your business. That means they got to support it because they invested their money in it.
That makes sense.
That means they're gonna come and they're gonna spend their money where they. The best way to teach a Black person how to spend money with Black people is to have them buy from themselves. If you own a piece of something, you're gonna buy from yourself, flat
Absolutely.
out. So that's why I tell anybody, I don't care what you want to do equity crowdfund and get people to invest in your idea. And then that way you got in-house business. Period.
That makes sense. That makes
Period.
sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, period.
I normally ask people where do they see themselves in 5 years, but I want to ask you, where do you see Licking Heights in 5 years?
First of all, let's do it. I love Lincoln Heights. I don't care. I will give my last. We're about to go into an era that scares me, and that's because I think they said, and don't quote me to no hard numbers because I'm not gonna act like I done did the current research, but I think over 1 million people lost their job last year from AI, from the transition of different things that's going on. Can you imagine how many people gonna lose their job in 2026 from AI, where the robots taking over jobs? I mean, not just just the AI whole era. Think about I don't even have to have a secretary no more because I can do everything off ChatGPT.
Man. It used to be a process, say like 3-4 days to get a bid together estimate, take your measurement. Now you could put the architectural drawings in there, a couple pictures, and it's gonna give you an estimate in seconds.
Exactly.
That is amazing.
So if Lincoln Heights don't acclimate themselves to this AI, that means teaching our kids. Like, if we're not teaching our kids about AI in-house at the schools, the daycares, the whole nine, it's people gonna be losing their jobs. So when they lose their jobs, who's gonna get those houses? The houses that they living in, the houses that they own, the houses that they own from their parents. It's gonna be investors coming in, buying it up left and right. And that's what scares me the most. We got a new council in, a new mayor in. I'm excited. I'm waiting to see what, the ideas that they got to help what's about to come, because they got elected at a time that's going to be one of the most trying times ever in our history. In our modern day, like our lifetime.
Right.
They got a baton that they done picked up, that they got to carry, a torch that they picked up. Man, that torch is going to be heavy, and we got to have a plan as a community. If we don't come up with a plan as a community, people they already been wanting to buy up Lincoln Heights, period. Like when Lot King came out there and was buying up all the real estate, the Port Authorities own, I don't know how many lots and land. They think they got 100 lots or whatever. And I'm just speaking in general with the numbers, but it's always somebody looking, because you got the train tracks close there. You got the highway right there. It's right across from General Electric or GE. It's perfect for people to want to come in and take it. So I'm just looking, like I said, our leadership is going to be key now. And it's got to be more than talk. It's got to be action. You know what I mean? They say you got to put hustle behind the muscle. If we don't do that, brother, I just see a bunch of people, investors coming in, trying to swoop up deals. And, that's what scared me.
Do you feel a lot of people who now made money, they chose to leave Lincoln Heights once they made money? Yeah. Do you feel like, and I know a lot of brothers who stayed in Lincoln Heights when they might have had the money to leave Lincoln Heights and end up losing their life due to the fact they were staying where everybody may have knew they stayed at.
I say this. if number one, if you're going to be a hustler, why stay in Lincoln Heights? And it's a different time now. Like, you don't see people standing on the street corners of Lincoln Heights no more.
It's a different time.
So now hustling is a totally different type of situation. A person can be staying next door, you'd never know they hustling because they ain't out selling dope on the corners, none of that. You know what I'm saying? It ain't done that way no more.
Right.
So you will have to know that person's just a dope boy, and you know where he in the community, and you might try something. But I don't see drugs being a big factor in Lincoln Heights no more like it used to be. It's more working people. You know what I'm saying? And it's not young people hanging out on the block trying to hit licks.
Okay.
That's not the same thing. And I know a lot of people have moved from Lincoln Heights. More opportunity. You know what I'm saying? You want better for your family. You want better for your kids. But my thing of it is now is, as investors, people can come in, and as homeowners too. You can come in now because Lincoln Heights is right for people to come in, invest, or buy homes. And they build nice homes out there now. And I give a little credit to the Port Authorities. I like some of the houses that they built. They're expensive. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think one of them sold for $320,000 or something.
Damn, for real?
On Adams. And then the ones that was on Jackson.
So like right there by the Gap and stuff, them houses, is that the Port building those?
Okay, so I'm you know where Jackson is?
Yeah.
Okay. If you go where Douglas and Jackson right there on the corner.
Yep.
Across from where the Sugar Shack used to be. Them houses, the Port Authority is building those.
Okay.
And Mr. Hodge is one of the builders of those. And those sold, the first 4 they built sold for, and they sold those a couple years ago. They sold for $250,000 a piece, or $260, something like that. Now the 2 they build right now, I don't know how much they're going for, but I imagine they're expensive. They probably like $300. Excuse me. But it's opportunity out there. There's plenty of lots out there where you can come and build you a nice home, And trust me, it's not the same element, but you got a lot of houses out there that still own. It's like dilapidated, look rough. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I've always tried to, beautify whatever I own in Lake Heights. I try and do it the best. I try and make it look better than anybody's out there. So
that fourth family you got right down there.
Yeah.
Man, look, I reached out to that's my cousin, Junior.
uh-huh.
So I reached out to Junior and I'm like, because I went down Wabash, right? And I was like, I'm gonna start. It was a while back. I'm like, I'm gonna take down a bunch of addresses of houses that's look like they, shambles.
Yeah.
So once I took down the address, now this like I say, people can move much more efficient than this. I took down the address, then I looked up the got on the auditor site, got a name.
Right.
Once I got that name, now I go to Facebook. So when I go to Facebook and I got this name, and I'm like, dang. So I'm like, I see this dude. I'm like, Alan Spell. I'm like, man, he friends with a couple of my cousins. So I asked my cousin Quinn. I'm like, Quinn, who is this dude? He like, that's our cousin. I'm like, our cousin. He like, yeah. So I reached out to him. Like, man, he's like, man, they just in my name, but it was my he running down to me. So I called. It was my grandmother's twin sister, Ain't Pretty. So I was like, Ain't Pretty, I need to speak to Junior. So he is like, man, I'm about to start working on that property, man. I'm about to get on it. I want to sell it. So I'm like, all right, man. So then a couple years later, I look up and I think I see you working on the one up at the top of Wabash.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, man, I hit him back up and he's like, he sold them, but I said, damn, that's crazy. He got one left. It's one left. It's on
He got 3. He got 3 left. He got one in Lockland. He got one in on Van Buren.
Van Buren. That's what I'm talking about.
No, Matthews.
That's
he got
Matthews.
One
Up
on Matthews,
from
and he got one
store.
in Winton Place.
Yeah, but one in Lake Heights.
Yeah,
but the one in Winton, I think it's a 2-family.
The one in Winton Place, he has 2 families.
Yeah, 2-family. Yeah. So because he passed away and now his sister.
It's in probate.
Yeah,
I'm buying. Well, it's under contract. The one in Lockland and the one in Lincoln Heights, I had under contract because we didn't know. He thought the son thought they could still sell it, and they can't, and it's in probate. So you know how probate go; it takes forever.
Right.
But yeah, he saw the first one I bought from him was down on Stephens, across from the old barbershop, Cave and barbershop.
Yeah.
That was the first one he bought from. I bought from him. I bought that for like $30,000, and then I always stayed in his ear,
Yeah.
And he called me one day and he was like, and I knew his health was bad.
Yeah.
Like when I went up to see him, like he just got out the hospital and he was like, I'm gonna go ahead and sell these 2. So he sold me the 889 Jackson Street, and then he sold me 909 Wabash.
You got that looking good too, both of them.
Thanks. But yeah, he sold me those before he died, and then I was supposed to get the one on Matthews and one on Maple down in Lockland before he passed away, and he passed away on me, so I didn't get a chance to get those, and I was just tied up in probate. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you for coming on here, man. You got an exciting story, and I definitely want to be a part of when you roll the water thing all the way out. I want to be a part of that. Is it anything you want to leave our viewers with?
Invest in Black people. Invest in yourself. Stop spending your money, because we're going into a time where you're going to look back and say, I should have did this. Stop going out to the bar spending money that you don't have. Start saving your money, because there's going to be opportunities that come along that if you didn't save your money, you're going to miss out. Stop going out to eat all the time. Now, I'm not saying stop living. Just be smart with your money now. It ain't the time where you think that if you was getting your hair done every week, get it done once a month. If you're getting your nails done every week, get it done once a month. Save that money because you're going to need it. And unfortunately, it's going to be a lot of people losing jobs. And unfortunately, this time, it's going to trickle back down to the Black community harder than any other community that's out.
Words from a wise man. Fancy. Thank y'all for tuning in to the FlipSide Podcast. You know the motto. Stay down till you come up. Peace.
Peace.
Appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate you, brother.
A lot of knowledge, man. A lot of